All right, Dustin, looks like we are recording. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Carly Janolis. I'm the science specialist at the co-op, and I'm joined with my partner, Jenny.
And I'm Jenny Gamble. I am the elementary STEM specialist at the co-op. And today we are going to be interviewing Mindy Porter, who is the Director of Education at the Amazeum. So welcome, Mindy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to share with everybody.
And I'll do a bit of a more formal introduction in just a minute. But Carly, did you want to just share a little bit more about the co-op and what this is about today?
Yeah, of course. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And Jenny and I both work at the Northwest Arkansas Education Co-op. We serve all of our public school districts in Benton, Madison, and Washington counties, but we're located in Farmington, Arkansas. Welcome to the 11 a.m. hour of the Real World Wednesday guest speaker series. We hope that you guys will utilize the chat or the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen so that you can interact with Ms. Porter and make connections with what you're learning in the classroom to how it relates in the real world. We will be, Jenny and I will be monitoring the Q&A and the chat so that we can make sure that your questions do get answered. There's no need to worry about unmuting or fixing your video because we're utilizing the Zoom webinar feature. So you're just fine as you are doing what you're doing. But please sit back and relax and enjoy our guest speaker, Miss Mindy Porter.
Okay, thanks, Carly. So let me tell you a bit more about Mindy. She is the Director of Education, as I mentioned earlier, at the Scott Family Amazeum in Bentonville. She oversees the team responsible for key impact areas of the museum, which include the unfilled trips, if you've been on one of those, the early childhood education programs, the tinkering initiatives in school settings, guest experiences, and specialized workshops and camps for a variety of audiences. Mindy began her museum career journey at the Discovery Center of Springfield in Springfield, Missouri. When she left that role, she then came to the great state of Arkansas as the Director of Informal Learning at the Mid-America Science Museum, which is located in Hot Springs. Mindy is a graduate of Missouri State University of Springfield, Missouri, with a Bachelor of Science in Biology. So join me in welcoming Mindy Porter today.
Yay. Hey, Jenny.
Thanks so much.
Intro.
And Mindy's also a dear friend of mine. So I'm looking forward to spending the next few minutes talking with you. And we would just like to start by asking you, how did you decide that this is the career that you wanted to do for your life?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have always, as a kid, just really loved science. I loved doing science fair. I loved anytime we had hands-on science, building roller coasters in 5th grade. I have a real vivid memory of that. I just loved all of that stuff. I love to explore outdoors. I love to explore physics, just everything about it. So every class I took, growing up, that was science. It was just my favorite thing. I really was drawn to it. And then, high school into college, I really discovered that I liked working with children. So I liked interacting with kids in different settings. And so I really started to kind of gain some experience within that. So I was trying to figure out throughout college, how do I kind of blend those two worlds? How do I explore science, but also have kids around me and explore that together? And I really didn't know that a career in museums was something that was possible. So it really wasn't until the end of college that I kind of stumbled into the awareness that you could be employed at a museum. So I happened to interview at the Discovery Center of Springfield, as you mentioned. That was my first museum, and that was my entry into this field. And pretty quickly after getting that first job, I realized what an amazing field it is, amazing opportunities, what a great blend of the types of things I enjoy and the connections I like to make. So that was really my first step into the museum field, and it has been my passion ever since.
Awesome. Is it the museum, is it center? What is it? This Discovery?
Discovery Center. So it's a more of a science museum geared for a little bit of older children. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
That's awesome. So what kind of got you into, you had mentioned that you just enjoyed working with kids and then that you'd never really knew much about a career in a museum. And so what just kind of drew you into even applying for that first job, to making this your career?
Yeah, I was drawn into, so I actually started volunteering at the Discovery Center in college, just a few hours here and there, help out with an event, help out when they needed some people to interact with guests as they were coming through the building. Minimal training, I did a few things. It was fun. I didn't really think about the fact that people work there and that it could be a job. It was just kind of fun. And then I heard through my job on the college campus that the museum was hiring. And I was like, what? They hire people to do stuff? What do people do there? So I applied for the volunteer coordinator position. I didn't know at the time what that meant, but I went in, I interviewed, and you guys, I'll just be really honest with you. It was a terrible interview. I did not do a good job. I didn't know enough to really speak well to the questions. I was inexperienced, but I was just so curious and so just intrigued by what this could be and what it would be like to work at a museum like this. So after the interview was over, the person who's interviewing me called me up. They're like, hey, look, like you're not really the best fit for this position. I'm like, I'm fully aware. Like, I know that wasn't a great interview. I'm very sorry. I'm just excited to learn about this place. How else could I connect with you guys? And they said they just got a grant for outreach, that they needed somebody to come in and run their outreach program and start that from scratch, go out and teach third graders and fifth graders all about science, do it in a hands-on interactive way. So they asked me, if I would come back in and interview for that position, because they saw something in me, which is an amazing thing. And I'm so grateful after all these years that that person saw something in me that I didn't see in myself just yet. And they took a little bit of a risk and a chance on me. So they called me back in, I interviewed for that position, and it was just like the best of all the worlds mixing together. And they trusted me to start this program, and that's how I got started. So really, I was drawn to this idea of exploring science, getting hands-on with it, mixing it with other disciplines, not looking at just science. Now we're starting to talk about STEAM, right? Let's get technology, engineering, arts, math, all mixed in there together, and how that intersection really allows you to explore in really fun, unique ways that you can't do if you look at just science or just math on its own, right? It's really that blending that starts to get interesting. So really that exploratory nature, that idea of asking questions, that idea of just messing around, getting our hands on things, the hands-on materials, that's really what drove me and really made me interested in that. And it's because I can kind of own my own learning with that, right? I can ask my own questions, I can explore it my own way. I can have others come alongside me and do it with me. That's really what was interesting to me about museums. There's something magical in that.
And I love so much just taking your passion and then putting yourself out there and taking that risk, because the risk is always, there's always something to learn from it or gain from it. And maybe that one position wasn't the position for you, but it then led into this amazing career that was just driven off of you following your gut and following your passion. So
yeah, that's
I
right.
love it.
That's right. And the others at the museum doing the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Risk, and they trusted their guides, and it worked out nicely.
Yes, definitely.
Well, I know that you and I are close in age, so you've had to have been in the museum world since really the early 2000s. How have you seen it change in the last almost 20 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. Yeah, it's been about 18 years that I've been in museums. I've worked in 3 museums now, as you mentioned, 2 prior, then the honor to be here at the Amazeum. Probably some of the biggest change that I've seen in museums across our country is kind of that shift from being just a nice, fun place to visit. It's a nice thing to do if you're on vacation. It's a fun reward trip at the end of the school year. Moving from that mindset and seeing museums now more as an essential part of our community. It's a learning resource. It's a place that we go to for to engage and to understand, to learn more about our world. And yes, it's still so much fun, and it's still, all those things before, but there's been this shift into this more, the field calls it moving from nice to necessary. So it's nice to have, but now it's more of a necessary thing to have. It's a resource. It's a part of our community. It's part of the fabric of our community. And without it, there would be something missing and there'd be a void, which is what we saw here in Northwest Arkansas. Before the Amazeum existed, we didn't have a hands-on interactive museum where families could come together and explore. And there was definitely something missing. There was a void. And it's been an honor to build the Amazeum and to open it and to help fill that void and to give our families and our schools and field trips and everything that's really necessary, essential experience and learning.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, I take my 4-year-old to the Amazeum and she loves it because we kind of forget that just anytime kids are engaged in doing something and hands-on, you know, we don't have to have a lesson that verbalizes what we're talking about with them. Just them doing it is them learning. They're naturally curious, and it's a phenomenal place.
Yeah.
Just any career in STEAM.
Oh, you froze, Carly.
I did.
Yes. You want to, let me ask my question and then
Yep.
I'm
unstable.
Yep. So, Mindy, tell us, like I was saying, there's so much fun stuff goes on at the Amazeum, and I know that every day is different there, but what is a typical day like for you in your career field or in your specific role?
Yeah, there is no typical day. I'm sure that's probably a pretty common response you get from most people. Really no such thing as a typical day, but each day is different. I think that's something that a lot of us are drawn to working in a hands-on museum. That's something that we like. We kind of thrive in that changing environment. But I'm often just responsive to whatever's happening with that day, whatever. So I have several people that report to me. So I have a lot of incredible team members. So I'm often responsive to what's going on in their day and what support they need, how I can help them. And then a lot of responsive to like what programs are going on. So there may be, like on Monday, we had 3 or 4 different programs happening in different spaces and at different times. And so I'll step in and help, with that, like set up, tear down, move the tables, clean that table off, greet the campers as they're coming in, those types of things. And then I'm also responsive a lot to what's happening in the museum itself. So what's happening with our guests that day. Sometimes there's just days that are a little more intense and we just need a little more support. And there's other days that that support isn't as essential. So I usually think of my job in kind of a few different areas that I typically spend my time on throughout the week. So like I said, there's a lot of time with my team. So it could be supporting them physically, like helping them with the program and setting them up for success. It can be a lot of meetings with my team, brainstorming ideas for programs, making action plans on how we can move from, hey, this would be a really cool idea for a program. How do we actually move that through all of the steps and into a program that's actually happening with guests? So there's a lot of kind of that project management, kind of oversight, kind of making that pathway so that my team can then take the steps they need to take to be successful in getting that program ready. There's a lot of kind of keeping track of the vision. So making sure we're working towards something, that we're meeting the mission of the museum, and that we're staying on track with that we're not going off the track with trying to come up with crazy different programs that have really nothing connected to our mission. So trying to keep our vision and our mission really central to our work. And then I do a fair amount of actual helping with different grant writing opportunities. So working with our development team, who are some of the most incredible development team I've ever seen. We write a lot of grants, we receive a lot of grants, we have a lot of sponsorships. So there's relationship building with that happens that I help support. I often help write the grants, but then also once the grants come in, if it's connected to a program, then I oversee that grant and run that through. So sometimes that's collecting data, reporting things back. It's making sure we're staying on budget, all those types of things. So probably my least favorite part of my job is dealing with budget and looking at numbers and making sense of profit and loss statements and all of that isn't necessarily my strength, but I have grown a lot in the last few years and understanding that and being more savvy about budget. So, there's all sorts of different things. I could spend a lot of time one day doing a lot of those technical details. I could spend most of my day, leading a professional development workshop for teachers or interacting with early childhood kids out on the floor. So it just changes every day, and it's really great. But I think every day there are constants. There's always going to be playfulness and creativity within my day. I try to make sure there's always gratitude and kindness in each of my days, and just making sure I'm there to support those around me is always something that's always top of my mind every day.
Yes, great. Thank you. I love that you hit on the gratitude and kindness, especially in the world that we are living in right now. That is so important.
Yeah.
So Carly, you had a question that you were asking and we froze.
Well, I was going to actually shift to just kind of coming off of what Mindy was talking about, because we've heard it in both of our previous interviewees, just the importance of being part of a team and being able to just work with others. And I know that kindness and gratitude plays a huge role in that. And so I was just going to see if you could talk to our students and to our teachers just about the importance in working with others and being part of a true team.
Absolutely. That is one thing that I'm most proud about for the Amazeum culture that we have here as a team. If you've noticed, I've used that word team multiple times instead of staff member or employee. And that's really intentional. Like, the language that we use is really powerful. If you say team all the time, you start to act and think as a team easier than you would if you say staff or employee number 5,121, right? We're not a number, we're a person. So we very much have a collaborative team environment here at the Amazeum. We care for each other. We want to connect with each other. We want to support each other. We know that individually, we don't know everything and we can't do everything on our own, but together we know a lot and we can accomplish a lot. So that idea of being a team player and being a part of the team is something that takes practice. Sometimes it comes a little more naturally for some people than others, but I think everybody can learn how to be a part of a team. And sometimes that looks different. Sometimes that means you're the lead of the team and you're the one driving the discussion. You're the one driving the action plan. You're the one holding people accountable to what we said we were going to do. But driving it doesn't mean that you're the end all be all decision maker. It should mean that you're the one making space for everybody to have a voice and paying attention to the dynamics in the room, right? So if somebody's not speaking up, you need to create space and give them an invitation, a direct invitation to have a voice, and then let that voice be heard. So being the driver sometimes is a really critical role, but that's similar to being a leader, right? As a part of that. And then there's times that you're the contributor, that you're the one helping out alongside, that you don't have those leadership responsibilities, but that role is just as important. I don't want to use the word follower because that's not a part of a team. It's contributing to the work that's being done. Mm-hmm. So if you're in that contributing role, that role is just as important as every other role around the table. There shouldn't be a hierarchy within a team of who's more important than the other person. It's about establishing that it takes all of us, and we need all of us doing our equal part to be successful. So yeah, being that contributor is a fun place to be, and working with the other contributors and keeping your communication open between each other and with whoever the driver is of that group is an important thing to be a part of a team, is really have those clear lines of communication, clear expectations up front of who's doing what and when things are due and what our timeline is and what format things are needed in, that type of thing. Getting that out front and really communicated then makes it easier to really be a team, so that everybody's on the same page and you have the context and you're working towards the same goal. And then sometimes, we'll have the exact same people in a room, but it might be a different project, and our roles within that team might flip. I might be a driver on one and a contributor on another. And so it just really depends on the project and what the strengths are at the table. And then you identify who those people are and what your role is going to be, and then you move forward. So I think that's kind of how we approach being a team around here. And I think that's why a lot of our programs, our experiences, and why people love to be on staff here at the Amazeum is because
Yeah.
that we've created.
I love that culture, creating a culture where people just feel honored and valued and can use their strengths to contribute to the work. I do know, just because I've been in it for a while too, that that working with a team can be challenging. And that being said, I think you've talked about team. Are there other aspects of your job that are challenging, or just being in the museum field itself, or in this season that we're in with COVID? What is challenging right now for you in your role?
Yeah, you hit on the word COVID. That has been one of the most significant challenges, I think, across the museum field that we've had to face. So, when when the pandemic hit back in March, right, is when it really hit here in the US. Everybody knows we shut down everything, right? We sheltered in place, and that was absolutely necessary for all of us to stay safe and healthy, and to gain some understanding about this virus so that we know how to handle it better. So the Amazeum closed on March 13th. We closed our doors, and that was really heavy. That was really hard. It was a really hard decision. There were so many unknowns, so many pressures, conflicting information, just really hard to arrive at a decision together. I'm so grateful for all of that work that we have done over the past 5 years to develop this culture of support and collaboration and teamwork, because it really took several of us leaning in together as key leadership at the museum to make that decision together. I'm very grateful that no one of us had to do that on our own. And then, moving through being closed, we didn't know how long we'd be closed. We didn't know when it'd be safe to open, what makes it safe to open, how do we open safely, how do we protect our team, how do we protect our guests, how do we, right? So all these questions, again, conflicting information and looking for guidance. It was just a really turbulent time. It was really, really hard. And meanwhile, we also had to pivot everybody working from home. We were very grateful to be able to keep everybody on payroll, so we didn't have to let anybody go, which was a huge blessing. Going back to our incredible development team, they were able to secure funds and grants to help carry us through into our amazing community that supports us. So thankfully, we're able to keep everybody on payroll. But how are you a play facilitator at home when your job is to interact with our incredible guests while they're here playing with the exhibits? How do you do that at home? What does that look like? So we had to pivot how everybody was working and what their responsibilities were. We had to pivot from using the Amazeum building and the experience here as our primary way that we interact with our community. How do we do that without the building? So we had to pivot and change our delivery methods. So there's just like that pivot. We're all sick of that word pivot, I know. We just pivoted on every single thing you could possibly imagine. And that was challenging, and we had to be creative, and we were mentally exhausted, and we had to work on our mental health together and support each other. And we all kind of became, well-versed in viruses and epidemiology and tracking stats and cases and trying to make decisions about that kind of thing. And then how do we re-envision what we look like to be open to the public so we can be safe? So reinventing our operational model, reinventing how we interact with guests and all of that, while still keeping core to who we are and how we value education and what that looks like. So keeping the core, but also making it safe. So I would hands down say that's been the most challenging thing. We reopened in July, and since then it's been a little bit easier, but it's still a lot of pivots and swirls and twirls that we're making with a lot of things, really checking in on each other's mental health and making sure we're keeping each other accountable on that. So yeah, I could talk forever about
Well, it's been a lot of changes at the Amazeum to keep it operating.
Yeah, and it's been felt across the board. Every museum closed in the U.S. and there's only a small percentage that have reopened, and some are getting ready to reopen in 21. And so it's been really interesting to see the field come together and really share ideas and, what are you doing that's working? What are you doing that's not working? That type of thing. So the support amongst the field has been a really helpful thing for us as well.
That's great.
So, just with everything that has been changing, what kind of projects, or what do projects look like moving forward? Is there anything that you're working on right now that you would be able to share with us, or?
Yeah, for sure. When we closed the museum, one of the major things that we changed was creating what we call Amazeum U, which is taking a lot of our favorite hands-on STEAM explorations and recording them. So we have 80 plus different videos on our website of these really great activities that you can do at home. It's really common materials that are used in the activities. So you don't have to invest a lot of money or time to get the supplies. And you're using those supplies to explore, like I said, different STEAM activities. So we have videos out there, then we have a written guide as well to kind of support that. And then we found some additional interesting articles or makers that are connected to that, or different hands-on activities from other museums or reputable sites that we linked together as well. So we spent a lot of time since March developing those and putting those out there for everybody to enjoy. So those are still on our website. We're still adding to them over the course of time. A lot of museums kind of did that similar kind of shift of putting activities out through video or through their social media. So there was actually a group called Co-Build 19 that ended up forming that now has over 3,000 museums, libraries, teachers, educators, parents, caregivers that are a part of it. And we all share these activity ideas together. So we're actually in the process right now of developing a suite of videos and guides that connect more to sensory activities. So we know this is a stressful time. We know we're coming up on the holidays. It can be stressful anyway. Now we're in COVID times for holiday. What does that look like? There's transitions coming up with school letting out for break and coming back in. Just a lot of transitions, and that can be really stressful on top of an already stressful time. So what are some simple sensory activities that you can do to give yourself a moment of mindfulness and a moment of kind of decompression and being still? So we're working on bundling those up and pushing those out nationally, probably joining with a couple other groups that are doing similar work so that there's a bigger bundle of things. So we're working on that right now, which is really exciting. And then we're working on some programming, some special things that'll happen here at the Amazeum during the winter holiday time. So there'll be some new pop-up activities, probably some wintry decorations as well throughout the building, just to kind of change the environment, make it feel a little special for wintertime.
Wow. Yeah, the Amazeum always has something on the horizon that is exciting. If you haven't made it there, are y'all still have the duct tape? Or no, that's gone.
Oh, that's gone. That was super cool.
That
The
was so
tunnel,
awesome.
tape tunnels made out of
Tunnels.
tape.
Yes, I loved it.
I want to bring that back. That was really fun.
It's Thomas, the train right now.
Thomas and Friends. Yep,
Okay.
Thomas and Friends, the train is here. It'll be here, I think, through the end of December. And then we're going to be switching over to Kiva planks, which are really awesome.
I love those.
Building planks, but we're going to have thousands of them. So you can build really tall, really wide, collaborate with other families, make really interesting things.
Awesome. Well, so can you talk, so you've talked a lot about being, the skill sets of, building strong relationships and working in a team. Are there other skills or courses that you took in college in the areas of STEM, or things that you learned in, junior high and high school that you would say, like, if you wanted to work in a field like this, or this specific field that you need to do this, take this, what would you say?
Yeah, there's kind of two ways I can answer that. The first way is, when I went through college, went through high school and college, I didn't know this was my career field. I didn't know this was an option. I didn't know this was going to be my pathway, which probably is true for most people. You don't go to college and then go into the field.
Exactly.
right? So I don't think you need to put that pressure on yourself that as a junior, you need to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life. That's ridiculous. We're all ever changing and we should be lifelong learners and finding new opportunities and growing into them. So when I look back on my college career, if I knew where I would be today, I would have told myself in college, keep taking all those science classes. That's really important. But you should also take some business classes. Go ahead and understanding of budgets and how to read those sheets. Instead of having to learn it on the job, let's take a class in some finances and nonprofit management, what it means to be a nonprofit versus a for-profit. What are the differences between those two? Also taking a look at some education courses. I really wish I took some of the intro to ed kind of classes, understanding learning philosophies and pedagogies and what that looks like in different grade levels. I wish I knew a lot more about early childhood. I wish I took some early childhood classes about brain development and those developmental milestones. I wish I had that foundational understanding from college as I moved into my career. I've had to learn all of that on my own or on the job or taking Coursera courses and things like that and learning from colleagues and webinars, all that kind of stuff. So I've had to learn as I've gone. I wish I had some of that basis already that I could just build on top of instead of creating that foundation as I went. For those of you who are in school now and you're thinking, museums might be kind of interesting, I want to know more about that. Especially if you're thinking about in a science museum or in a children's museum kind of realm, I would encourage a few things of you. I would tell you to be as curious as you can be and ask so many questions. I think that's true for anybody, regardless of what career field you're looking at going into. Keep that curiosity. We lose it as we get older. Keep being curious and ask lots of questions. Even if you think it's a silly question, ask it anyway and see if you can explore it and find some answers. That curiosity, I think, learn, explore, get hands-on with science, with art, with math, with engineering, with technology. If art isn't really your thing, I don't care. Try some art, try some pottery, try some painting, try something new. If you think science isn't your thing, I don't care. Try messing around with light, try messing around with some circuitry. Come to the museum and play for a little bit. You might surprise yourself on what you really think is interesting. Or maybe you affirm like, oh yeah, no, that's not my thing. I really don't want to go down this career path. Sometimes knowing what you don't want and what you don't like is really important too. And then I think don't get discouraged on those subjects that are difficult for you. So if math is a struggle for you, I get it. It was a struggle for me too, but dig in, see it as a challenge, ask for help, get the tutor, dig a little bit deeper. You've got it in you. You are stronger and can work harder than what you realize. So don't let whatever might be just challenging or difficult to you. Don't let that be a barrier. Just let that be a hurdle that you just need to step over and ask for help to get over that hurdle, because there are people around you who will come alongside you and help you get to that point. You don't have to do this on your own. You're not on an island. There are plenty of people to come alongside you at different parts in your life. And I have definitely taken advantage of that over my life. I can point to every season that I've had, who was around me and who helped me, and at what times did I reach out for help and what times didn't I? And man, I wish I reached out for help. Why did I let my pride get in the way? I needed to ask for that help. And then the other thing I would do is, like, if you're really interested in museums or you think that might be, like, visit museums, especially once we can travel and move around a little more freely. Visit museums, go on vacations, go to all the different museums. There's great museums here in Arkansas. Mid-America Science Museum, there's Museum of Discovery in Little Rock. There's great museums around. Visit them, visit different types. There's children's museums, science museums, history museums, art museums. You've got Crystal Bridges here. We have Mona, Museum of Natural or Native American History. Like, there's all sorts of types of museums. Go visit, go play, be curious. And then if that feels good and that still is exciting to you, see if you can volunteer or get a part-time job, or participate in a program or something like that. Like, take that next step and go a little bit deeper with that museum, and try it on a little bit more and see if it really does fit well, or what parts fit and what parts don't fit, so you can kind of see what your next step will be. I think it's all about just finding your next step. It's not about determining your entire pathway of careers for the rest of your life in one fell swoop. It's just about what's that next 2-3 steps that you need to take. That's all you need to worry about. The rest will happen. It'll get there.
Good. It's really good. Carly, did you have another question? I do, but you go ahead
No,
now.
go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, so, you are a lifelong learner. You just really hit on that as you were talking about all the things that you've learned on the job. And I know that you have gotten to travel all over the US and go to various, conferences or whatnot. Is there anyone that just was super exciting or you just really loved, or a place that you've gotten to go that's been really cool?
Oh, I don't think we have enough time to go through that list.
Just, is there a museum outside of the Amazeum that you would, if you could go to this state, like, go to this museum?
Yeah. I'll point to the Exploratorium, which is in
Yep.
San Francisco. We've been there. They are one of the earliest museums that opened. They are such a foundation inspiration for so many museums across the country. Definitely served as an inspiration for the Amazeum, in particular, how they use inquiry, how they ask questions, how they're just curious all the time about the world around them. We really took a lot from them in how we approach learning and how we approach our guests when we explore things together. So the Exploratorium is an absolute must. I would also say there's some really great children's museums as well, which children's museums typically serve 7, 8-year-olds and younger. So there's some great children's museums out there. The Children's Museum in Madison is a great one. The Children's Museum in Boston is a really inspirational one for us as well. They dig really deep into the value of play and how play is really essential for all ages, but in particular, those early childhood ages. So they do a lot of research in that. In the Bay Area Discovery Museum, if you're in San Francisco, you may as well go up to Sausalito. It's just across the Golden Gate Bridge to Bay Area Discovery Museum. They have an incredible outdoor space that's just filled with all sorts of great nature-based STEAM kind of explorations out there. So I could give you a long list.
I know you could. I know you're so
museums that are just incredible.
Yeah. Mindy mentioned the Amazeum for the Amazeum experiences. If you've not been on the Exploratorium's website, I would highly suggest checking out the Exploratorium. They actually, a fun fact, they came to Arkansas. Their museum staff came to Arkansas for a year. They spent a week, 4 weeks out of the year when I first became a science specialist, and I got to experience their training program for teachers. But they just brought it from San Francisco to Arkansas, and so I spent a week with the staff from the Exploratorium, and it was incredible. So if you get the chance to travel to California, go to the Exploratorium. I know we're running short on time. Carly, did you want to ask a couple of other questions, or were there any questions from the people that are attending right now?
No, but I did want to also just kind of with talking about the Amazeum, if you are participating in our STEAM Week, we did actually put that link in our STEAM Week promo. And so we can all thank Miss Mindy Porter for helping us be able to share that with you guys and just to engage in some of those activities. They are exciting. I've gone through several of those this week, and it's just really exciting to have a base or a network that you can connect with and look at some of these activities and do at home. Get excited about STEAM at home.
And with Amazeum U, we also started, we call it Amazeum U Connect. So on Fridays, we select one of the Amazeum U activities, and you can register to participate in a live Zoom call with our Amazeum educators, and we do that activity together. So we'll spend about an hour exploring an Amazeum U activity. So you have your supplies at home. They'll be slightly different than what we have here. So there's not a kit or anything like that that gets sent out in advance. It's just whatever you have at home. And then we explore together and ask questions together and share out our discoveries with each other, and just have this hour of time to just explore together. It's really fun. So that's also on that link that I put in the chat box.
That's
awesome.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. Well, you said, be curious, ask questions. Is there any other just advice that you would give to students that are interested in STEAM? I know that idea of being curious and asking questions is a big part of what y'all do at the Amazeum, but is there anything else that you would tell a student that's interested in a career path in STEAM?
Yeah, I think, the points that I said earlier, I'll just keep with those. So being curious, explore things, even if they're things that maybe you don't feel like you're good at, or maybe you feel like aren't you, or maybe you feel like you don't want to be embarrassed if you try it. Just take that step and try it anyway. Find a safe place that you feel comfortable taking that risk, and try it out. You might be surprised to kind of explore those different parts of your identity, and really try things on. Don't be boxed in. I know oftentimes we feel like we have to choose between different identities, like you have to be smart or sporty, or you have to be a science person or an art person. You don't have to be, it's not an or. You can be an and person. So be an and person. You can be smart and like science and like art and like to bike and like to, hide out and read a book, and you can be all of these things. So we use that phrase a lot around here. This is an and strategy. We're not going to limit ourselves by just one or the other. It's and we're going to capture all of that. So don't let the or be a limiting to you. You don't have to be that. The sky's the limit. So don't limit yourself. Other things will try to limit you, but don't let that happen.
Man, I love that phrase, be an and person. I've not heard that before, and I've spent a lot of time with y'all, so I'm not sure how I missed out on that, but that is
because you're an and person. I don't have to tell you that. You're an and person, and Carly is as well. So keep anding.
I love it. I love it.
Mindy, thank you so much for sharing your passion with us, and just for the work that the Amazeum does in Northwest Arkansas. Students, you don't probably see this, but I'll just say that we are incredibly privileged in this part of the state, because I've lived in other parts of the state, to have this museum and the culture that they are creating for kids of all ages. So thank you again for the work that y'all do and that you can continue to do. And students, encourage your families, your cousins, your friends to support the Amazeum and other museums in our area, especially during these times. We want to see them stay here and just continue to expand and offer great opportunities to all of us. So thanks again for being part of this, Mindy, and I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon.
Great. Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. It's so great to share with everybody, and to be a part of this incredible community, and to work together. We love our partnership with the cooperative and what we're able to do together and pull on each other's strengths to help support all of Northwest Arkansas schools. And I know it's a tough year and things are really bumpy and different this year, but everybody's doing an amazing job. So give yourself, a pat on the back, students, teachers, admin, everybody. You're doing a great job. Hang in there.
Amen.
The road gets less bumpy.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Carly, did you want to share about who's next?